Welcome to the WalterFootball.com podcast. This is episode 312. We're doing an episode about NFL coach firings and other things like the Eagles tanking in Week 17, discussing the Super Bowl champion MVP, joined by Kenny Ortiz at Fantasy Jabber, the triumphant return of Kenny since, I think, August. Kenny, how are you? How have you been? What's up? What's going on with your life?
Oh, nothing major. My wife and I just moved, bought a house like 2 minutes away from where we lived. And homeowner again, which is lame because you got to fix crap. And we bought a dog, and my wife is pregnant, 4 months pregnant. We've been married 251 days. We got married May 1st, and we waited, all of a few weeks to get pregnant. It was exciting.
That's awesome. Congratulations. I remember one of the last times I spoke to you, you were newly married and you said you're going to write a book about marriage because you said you were already very experienced in it. So I'm expecting a book on fatherhood soon from you, like the sequel. So
you're welcome.
You're going to look forward to it. I guess we haven't spoken in a while, and if you're watching on YouTube, you might see that we're both wearing Jalen Hurts jerseys. This is something I talked about with Jacob on our Picks podcast when we were saying like the Eagles Saints game, and then Jalen Hurts was slated to start. I said that because Kenny and I called the Jalen Hurts pick the worst draft pick of all time, or at least I did. I don't know if you did. We both hated it.
Pretty bad.
So I said if the Eagles beat the Saints, I will buy Kenny a Jalen Hurts jersey, and I'll buy one for myself, and we'll wear it on the show. And so we're doing that now, and that was the only game that Jalen Hurts won as a Philadelphia Eagle in 2020. So what are your thoughts on the Jalen Hurts pick? Because you're an Eagles fan. So what are your thoughts on how he played and revisiting that draft pick?
So quick thought. I listened to the podcast. I heard you say, I laughed, and I thought they're not going to beat the Saints. And then they beat the Saints, and I said to my wife, I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll get a Jalen Hurts jersey." I thought you were kidding. And then I got a Jalen Hurts jersey in the mail. I'm like, "Oh, sweet!" It's hanging right next to my Wentz jersey in the closet.
Nice.
Jalen Hurts pick is still a terrible pick. Like it was a terrible pick at the time. It didn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense. Like the outcome it would take to redeem that pick is so unlikely. Unless Jalen Hurts turns into Russell Wilson, that pick was a terrible pick. And even if he does turn into Russell Wilson, it still might be a bad. Like what it would take for me to say that pick wasn't bad based on the situation of the time and what they had just given Carson Wentz and how they were building the team. Like it made absolutely no sense to me at the time. It still doesn't make sense to me. And if they use that pick better, maybe they're in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, you have to wonder, if they thought he was Russell Wilson, like, wouldn't they have taken him in the first round? So they waited until the mid to late second round to draft him. And I remember when in 2012, when the Redskins drafted Robert Griffin, second overall, and then they drafted Kirk Cousins in the fourth round. Like in that draft, I remember that the Cousins pick being slammed by the media, by everyone, right? Because they're like, you just spent this huge resource, not only the second overall pick, you traded up for it. So you gave up a bunch more, and then you drafted Griffin, and then you devoted all your resources to him, and then you're going to draft another quarterback. And at the time, I don't hate this. I think it's a bad move. I don't hate this because in the fourth round, you typically take your backup then. So if you think you can flip Cousins, for draft picks in the future, like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But imagine if they did that in the second round, like if they took Kirk Cousins in the second round after taking Robert Griffin in the first, like that would have been like everyone would have laughed at them. And the Eagles just paid Carson Wentz so much money. They devoted all these resources to him, and to spend a second round pick on a quarterback, like I don't even care who it is. Like Jalen Hurts played better than I thought he would. But to kind of waste the second round pick on him, I think that was a horrible move. And like we didn't know Carson Wentz was going to tank like this. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Wentz? Like why did he get so much worse this year?
His mechanics are just terrible. And I feel like a lot of people are just not. I hope the coaches get it. I hope the coaches see it. There's a website or a YouTube channel I follow, Brett Coleman. He does a lot of film breakdown. I really, really like his work. He basically did a whole video basically breaking down like Carson's mechanics. And the reality is that like we all knew this. Like Carson's mechanics in North Dakota, he had these same issues. Like he has a very wide base. So he's just like And like all the rumors are in 2017 when Wentz was awesome, was it John DeFilippo, his quarterback's coach, was really, really tough on him. Like that was the rumor, coming out of the NovaCare complex or out of the Eagles organization. It was just like constant, like this quarterback's coach is really, really tough on Wentz. And every single time Wentz had a play with bad mechanics, DeFilippo was on him. Wentz would be coming off the sideline or coming to the sideline, and the coach was on him. And it became obvious to people in the Eagles organization, Wentz is the kind of guy that needs that kind of coaching. Well, there's no one doing that right now. There's no one that's like that. Now, not everyone needs that. Some guys don't respond well to that kind of coaching. Some guys need a little more softer, looser type of coach, and they thrive under that. But some guys need the tougher coach. And I think Wentz seems like the kind of guy, and no one has that right now. And so the nightmare scenario is Wentz gets traded. As an Eagles fan, Wentz gets traded. Somebody's able to coach him again, tough, get his mechanics right, and then he's an MVP candidate again. Like that would be a nightmare scenario as an Eagles fan.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Like I think Jacob mentioned maybe Carson Wentz going to the Colts, being coached by Frank Reich again, and then I don't think you can trade Wentz this year because his cap number is just so big. So maybe in 2 years, if they manage to trade Wentz or cut him, and then Wentz goes to Indianapolis and just can revive his career, I think that's something that can happen. But with Wentz, I felt like I think you're right. Like the mechanics were terrible. But he also just didn't see the field very well, like for some reason. Like it looked like he just kind of mailed it in, sort of like, or it just kind of. I thought to myself, like he may have lost some passion for football, because remember when he was early in his career, like there were stories where he went on a date, and during the date he was watching film. Like that, like when I heard that, I was like, yeah, this guy's going to be a winner in the NFL because he loves football so much, and he's going to work, and plus he's super talented. And so when you have like talent plus effort, you have like great players. And it seems like the effort's not there anymore. I don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but I know Wentz, I know he's become a father for the first time. I don't know if that is serving as distraction. Like I'm assuming he's super busy and stuff like that. So I don't know if he's fully focused on football, and like that's my concern for him.
Yeah, I guess I don't know that I've seen anything that makes me question his effort. I think his confidence definitely makes me. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't the same player. And and there could be all sorts of things that we don't know about too. Are there relational dynamics in the locker room? I don't know, but at the end of the day, like Carson Wentz has been through some tough. People question his toughness. I think it's silly. Like the guy tore 3 ligaments in his knee, stayed in the game, and threw a touchdown pass to give the Eagles a lead in a game that they needed to win in 2017. Like the guy played through a broken back for 4 games, for crying out loud. Like the guy, like he has to come to work every day and see a statue of Nick Foles. Like you gotta have some sympathy for this guy who's really been through now. In this year he's played terrible, and any criticism he gets this year he brings on himself. But he's been through a tough way. And then they draft Jalen Hurts, and the offensive line this year was just terrible. Right, he led the league in sacks and hits. He led the league according to Pro Football Focus of in the least amount of time to throw the ball. Before he's under pressure. Aaron Rodgers had like 4.2 seconds on average per game before he saw pressure. Carson Wentz was like 2.5 seconds before. So it's like, hey, bro, and Carson Wentz has always been the kind of guy that holds the ball a little too long. That's his nature, because he's a kind of a gunslinger, kind of the Brett Favre type player. That guy doesn't do well when you're under duress. So it's just obvious they were throws he didn't make this year, because he just wasn't confident in his receivers. He wasn't confident that the protection was going to hold up. There are times where the protection does hold up and he still flees the pocket. There's a confidence or a mental issue clearly going on there. I don't mean like mental health. That's what I mean. I just mean like mental, like he's just not confident. The thinking is off. Maybe the preparation is off. I hope they can get it right. My confidence is low.
Well, what if it's like Andrew Luck, where he took so many hits and he just kind of like this hurts so much, I'm not healthy. Like this sucks. It could be like that, or maybe or even earlier, David Carr, when he was just sacked so much, he kind of like really couldn't play quarterback anymore. So maybe I still think he can rebound if the Eagles repair their offensive line, and he if I'm wrong about him not focused on football, like I think that he could have a good season, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But we kind of do know what's going on behind the scenes with the Eagles. A lot of the players were very angry about Jalen Hurts getting benched in the season finale. I was very angry because I had the Giants 18-1 to win the division. And not only that, I had the Giants over 6 wins. And so like that pushed. So like earlier in the year, they could have won some games. They didn't. I was like, okay, I'll still salvage this 18-1, and the Eagles are looking good. Like it looked like they could beat the Redskins in Week 17, and then they pull Jalen Hurts, and then Nate Sudfeld was so bad that Al Michaels during one of his throws said, "Oh wow, what was that?" So, what are your thoughts on the Eagles tanking? Because this is like I've seen both opinions. Like some people are saying the Eagles are smart for doing it, and then other people are saying like they kind of dishonored the game. What do you think?
Dishonored the game? What is it even like? They had these integrity.
There you go. Eagles tanking or fixing a game was disgusting. A lot of people are thinking that.
If this game was at 1:00 and not a national game, no one is talking about this at all, right? Like no one cares. Teams tank and get in Week 17 all the time. The Steelers didn't. The Steelers tanked the game this week. They didn't care, even though it mattered to the Cleveland Browns and the Miami Dolphins. Like teams do these kinds of things all the time. I have like the 6th pick and the 9th pick. I don't use the whole trade chart. That we talked about this before. You're into that more than I am. But if you use the trade chart value, moving from 9 to 6 is worth a 3rd round pick, a high 3rd round pick. In fact, there are in some cases, if a team's sitting at 9 and they really want to get a player that's at 6, they may give up a 2nd round pick to move that up. Like what they gained was extremely valuable, way more valuable than winning that game. So I don't understand Eagles fans that are mad about this. Like the 6th pick, you have a legitimate chance to get one of those stud receivers. And maybe if you really think, if you do move on from Carson Wentz, let's say you're able to trade him for some reason this fall, and you don't think Jalen Hurts is the guy. What if Justin Fields falls to 6 for some reason? Like, I'm taking that guy at 6. That guy's not going to be there at 9. So, like, being at 6 is way more valuable than being at 9. Or if you want to move up to 2 or 3 for some reason, as we've seen Howie Roseman do before, getting there from 6 to 2 or 3 is way easier than 9 to 2 or 3. So the idea that somehow this is bad for the Eagles, like I see no bad. Oh, some players are mad. They'll get over it. Like they'll be golfing all offseason. They'll come back. And I think that was overblown. Like I saw Brandon Graham came out this week and said, like, we actually knew the plan was for Nate Sudfeld. Brandon Graham was almost like, I don't know why people were upset about this. Like that was the plan. Jalen Hurts is the only guy that seemingly didn't know that he was going to get benched. I don't know. Jason Kelsey actually came out and said, like, yeah, he hates losing, but he actually knew that it was in the plans. It was actually reported earlier in the week that Nate Sudfeld was going to get some time in the second half. Teams do this all the time in Week 17. They want to evaluate players. They wanted to get some. They wanted to get some film on Nate Sudfeld, and what they learned is that guy doesn't belong in the NFL. So, like, I just think the whole the tank gate is faux controversy.
Oh man, I don't agree with you at all. I'm not like a huge like integrity of the game guy either. Like, so I don't have an issue with that. But my big problem with this is like teams tag for sure. But they don't sub out the players. I've never seen that before from a team that's losing. Now, a team that's going to the playoffs, you mentioned the Steelers, like they sat Roethlisberger for good reason because they don't want him to get hurt for the playoffs. The Eagles didn't want to see film on Nate Sudfeld. Like they know what they have in him. They see him in practice. They saw film on Devontae Smith from Alabama, and they're like, "Oh, we have to get him."
That's the film they saw, right?
That's exactly what they saw, and I don't blame them. I really don't blame them for doing that. What I really don't like is like twofold. Like one, they impacted the playoff. They impacted who made the playoffs. Like they decided this. And second, if you're going to tank, I like, why even play Jalen Hurts? Like why just go into the game saying, all right, Nate Sudfeld's starting. Boston Scott's not even going to play. No one's going to play. It's just going to be, it's like John Hightower is going to start receiver. You know, just do that. like don't give us this like this false expectation of Jalen Hurts maybe winning this game playing 3/4. Like they looked for 3/4 like they were going to try to win the game. They even went for the lead on 4th down rather than tie the game. And but but still, like the fact remains that they were trying to win, and then they decided like, hey, we're not going to try to win anymore. So it's like it's kind of like mixed messages. Like so, like, are you trying to lose all of a sudden? Like what is going on? And I think that was bad. So I think that they had to, if they wanted to tag, just come out and say like Hurts is not even going to play. That's my thing.
I get they wanted to get Hurts more reps in real action, and they wanted to get him reps about against a good defensive line. I get that. What I would have done is I would have announced before the game, Jalen Hurts is going to play the first half. Nate Sudfeld is going to come out at halftime. And if you proactively announce that, then people go, okay, you're right. Like no matter what the lead is. But it seems like what is obvious to me is that with all the players at the Eagles bench this week, right? Like the majority of their starters were not playing in this game. The majority of any player of value, they just figured they'd be down big in this game. They didn't realize that the Redskins would play like crap and that they'd be in this game. Like it's obvious they expected they'd be down by 2 or 3 touchdowns. And then at that point, it's like, well, we're down by 3 touchdowns. We might as well just, at that point, people are like, well, we get why you take Hurts out. You don't want to get him injured. Get Sudfeld in there. It would, if they were down by 3 touchdowns, it would make perfect sense. But the fact that they were in distance or within striking distance made it weird. Like, oh, like we all know what you were wanting to do. It was just so blatant. And we all know teams do this. Like all teams do these types of things. This was just so blatant. It still doesn't bother me, but I understand why some people like would raise an eyebrow. I still think it was worth it because what they gain, I just think is way worth it. Those 3 spots could end up making a pretty big difference down the road.
Or they could draft a 2nd-round receiver at number 6 and kind of like they did last year.
Let's hope they don't do that.
How painful is it that they didn't draft Justin Jefferson and took Jalen Reagor instead?
It's pretty painful. Or I mean, there were several teams that passed on Jefferson. Or the next year before that, Metcalf. They had Metcalf. Yeah, so it's always painful to look back at draft classes. It's always painful to look back and see. I get it. It's I don't have confidence in this administration. The who's picking the players, the general manager, the scouting staff. I don't know. Something is broken over there. But at the end of the day, to me, 6 is still better than 9. And everyone complaining about it, I'm just like, I mean, I was actively rude. I was mad that they were winning that game. It's that they came back and took the lead. They were down by 10-0. I'm like, great, this is awesome. I was excited, and I was frustrated that they came back and took a 14-10 lead in that game. By the way, the Washington Redskins, not a good football team. That team, they should have been up by 3 touchdowns. Also, I have no sympathy for Giants fans. You won 6 games. You're not. It's so the title, the integrity of the game. It was Joe Judge with his nonsense. Like, shut up! What are you talking about? Like, you won 6 games. You have 0 moral ground here. You won 6 games. Get out of here.
Yeah, losing Saquon Barkley in week 2 hurt. Like they I think they should have been better this year. Daniel Jones, by the way, he didn't progress like I thought he would. And that kind of goes into this question from Patrick. What do you think about Daniel Jones after seeing him this year? As a Giants fan, I don't know what to think yet, except he has butterfingers. What do you think, Kenny?
Daniel Jones, my opinion of him is exactly the same as it was at the beginning of the season, and that is there are moments where he looks awesome, and there are moments where he looks absolutely lost. And there's not a lot of moments in between. There are moments where he makes all the right reads and the good throws, and there are moments where you're wondering, I don't know what you're looking at. And even if you make the right decision, the throw is just terrible. Maybe that guy could change that. Maybe next year, he's athletic, he's got the arm strength. It's hard to know. I'm not confident in his long-term success potential. But I felt the same way about Josh Allen a year ago. So things can change in a year.
Yeah, I mean, he has upside. You can't deny that for sure. And so I think he needs to be coached up. And I don't think Jason Garrett's the guy to do it. And yet Jason Garrett's getting head coaching interviews right now for some reason. So let's get into the coaching. But before we do, please hit subscribe or the like button on YouTube. Send this out to someone. Share this video. It would mean a lot to us to spread the word about this show. So there were a few head coaches who were fired on Black Monday. Black Monday wasn't as crazy as it usually is. we kind of like expected the three guys to get canned. So let's begin with like in draft order. So the Jaguars, they pick first. They fired Doug Marrone. Can't be a surprise. So what do you think about that move?
I was slightly surprised, only because it seemed like late in the year there was like rumors that like somehow like the owner wasn't sure, and I'm like, well, usually when those things get leaked, like usually when it's bad team is like leaking things, like the owner's unsure, it's really their way of like prepping the fan base to like, we're going to bring this guy back. But of course, in the Jaguars case, the fan base is like 6 people. So, it's the right move. Doug Marrone, actually kind of like, Doug Marrone's the kind of guy, like, seems like a nice guy. Like, seems like the kind of guy you would want on your coaching staff. But he's clearly not like a head coach kind of guy. Like maybe he could be a coordinator or like a position coach. And like when you hear him talk, it's like this guy probably could be a part of a winning organization. He just can't be at the top of the ship, the top of the hierarchy.
We heard some different opinions on Marrone. Like he butted heads in the locker room. No one in the Jacksonville locker room liked him at all. In fact, he got the job by sabotaging the previous regime. So like it's pretty bad, and he quit on the Bills too. Like, so don't forget about that.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Everything we've heard from behind the scenes, like maybe I haven't really like listened to a lot of his like interviews, like paid attention really. So maybe like he does maybe come across as a nice guy, but like everything we've heard from behind the scenes is like this guy's just a nasty guy, and it's like kind of like Bill O'Brien, and like Bill O'Brien got fired. He could have been fired for many reasons, but he got fired for butting heads with J.J. Watt in that one practice. So I feel like Doug Marrone should have been fired years ago. He had that one lucky year when they went to the AFC Championships that kind of like kept them on for a while. But yeah, he's just a bad coach. And like if you're going to draft Trevor Lawrence, I think you need a good coach. Not that Trevor Lawrence needs to be coached up, but like with Lawrence, you're going to go places. Like you're going to be in Super Bowl contention. So I think you need a Super Bowl caliber coach, or at least a playoff caliber coach to go with him.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about like his relationships in the locker room with the Jags, so that stuff I'm not familiar with. Yeah, I guess I'm going off of his interviews and things I heard him say. I guess he just strikes me as a smart guy. Maybe too smart for his own good if he's manipulative and usurping authority, sabotaging previous regimes. If he's doing those kinds of things, yeah, then that's the kind of guy that's too smart for his own good.
Yeah, he's pretty bad in that regard. And the other guy, the second overall pick, the Jets, they fired Adam Gase, and we know about him and him with butting heads with players. He traded away several players because he couldn't get along with them. So I imagine that you think this is a good move, letting him go, right?
Yeah. I'm actually surprised that Adam Gase didn't do better with the Jets. I expected a little more from him. Not that I thought he would be great, but I guess when he left Miami, I thought he was like still had some potential to be an offensive game planner and scheming, and I thought like this guy could still be decent. And he turned out to be way worse than I thought. Just like really bad at pretty much everything a head coach needs to do. And so like if you're going to be kind of a jerk to players and like really tough on guys, the way like a Bill Belichick is, like you better be brilliant when it comes to X's and O's and other elements of motivation. Like you better be A+. Otherwise, you're gonna like you can't be like a tough guy on players, be a jerk, kind of a hard-nosed guy, and be a total buffoon when it comes to game planning. You can't be both of those and keep your job. So yeah, he clearly is not good at either one of those. Which I guess I turned out to be that's a little egg on my face because 2 years ago when he took that job, I thought they were going to be at least mediocre.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised by how poorly he did. And then as it kept going, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, this makes a lot of sense because if you look at all the players who have performed well after they separated from him, you got Ryan Tannehill, who got a lot better after him. You got Kenny Drake, who got a lot better after him. You have Devontae Parker, whose career just blossomed ever since he stopped getting coached by Adam Gase. And then you look at the other players who went to him. Sam Darnold has gotten worse. Like he was seeing ghosts against the Patriots. Like what is that? Le'Veon Bell goes to the Jets and just does nothing. Adam Gase decides to run Frank Gore instead of Le'Veon Bell. So Adam Gase I guess he had some fluky results in Miami because remember that one year he took the Dolphins to the playoffs, even though Ryan Tannehill went down. So they were starting Matt Moore. Yeah, Matt Moore. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this Adam Gase guy is a pretty good coach. And I think it was the Dolphins owner who said that he viewed Adam Gase as a young Bill Belichick. And then he fired him 3 years later. So I was like, maybe not. But I thought that because of those results, that Adam Gase was going to do well with the Jets, and yeah, egg on my face as well. Like he was just utterly atrocious. He could have been fired last year, and then which would have been good because then they wouldn't have traded Jamal Adams. But then again, they got a first round pick, so it's not too bad.
I still think that was a great trade for the Jets, and that'll help them going forward.
Oh yeah, I mean, imagine speaking going forward, what would you do with the second overall pick? Because there's some question marks there. Do you go with Sam Darnold? Do you have to give him some money because his contract's gonna be up? Do you give him some money and then try to build around him, or do you try to trade Sam Darnold? And if so, who do you draft at quarterback or sign?
I would, if I'm the Jets, I don't think I've seen enough from Sam Darnold to give him any money. I think I've seen enough from Sam Darnold where I don't think I'd want to count him out altogether, but I've not seen enough where I want to commit to him either. So I think I'd have to roll the dice and move on. I'd be drafting a quarterback or 2 overall. If Fields is there, or if for some reason the Jags take Fields and Lawrence is there, that would be the unless someone just gave me someone wanted to move up and just gave me a big haul, If someone, let's say, sitting at 6 wants to give me a major haul to move up, I mean, kind of where the Browns were, a couple years ago, or when the Rams and the Eagles moved up, or every year there are teams willing to move up for quarterback. If you think, okay, we want to delay a year before we go all in on deciding our quarterback, can they just pick up the option on Sam Darnold, the 5th-year option? You have to give him some money there, but not give him a big contract, and then just say, okay, we're going to go 1 more year with Darnold. And we're going to try to trade away that second pick. Staying at 2 and picking a player feels counterproductive to their long-term success. It feels like either getting a quarterback there you can believe in, or trying to shed that pick and get a haul for it. Seems like the wisest 2 options.
I agree with that. It doesn't make any sense for me if they stay and draft Penei Sewell at number 2, the Oregon tackle, because they just drafted Mekhi Becton in the first round. And so if you do that in a span of 12 months, in a few years, you're going to have to pay top dollar to 2 tackles. And, devoting that much money to one position in such a short span is problematic. That's actually why the Browns didn't draft Bradley Chubb. Like everyone thought a few years ago that the Browns were going to draft Bradley Chubb at number 4 overall, and they didn't, and everyone is surprised. But we in our mock drafts, we didn't have that because we were told that the Browns simply didn't want to devote that much money to defensive end, even though defensive end is an important position. They would have to re-sign Myles Garrett and Bradley Chubb in the span of 12 months to huge contracts, and they just thought that it was not going to be feasible. They're going to have to get rid of one of those guys, so they took Denzel Ward instead. And I mean, Ward's been a great player for sure. Bradley Chubb's been awesome too. So yeah, that's the one thing I don't think the Jets will do is take Sewell at 2. If they stay at 2 and don't want to take a quarterback, I think it's probably going to be one of the receivers. But I agree. If they're not going to take a quarterback at 2, they should trade down. And if they take a quarterback at 2, I think it probably should be Justin Fields. We've heard that some people have Deshaun Watson comparisons with him. He struggled in a couple of games earlier in the year, like Northwestern, the Big Ten championship, but he was kind of banged up. And then we saw what he was capable of when he was healthy in the semifinal, and then he got banged up again. But still, he was playing extremely well, and I think he played himself into number 2.
The hardest thing in sports to get, some of the hockey fans might argue it's goalie, but the hardest thing to get in sports is a franchise quarterback. It's the holy grail. This is the thing every team clamors for, which is why as an Eagles fan, I'm so apprehensive. The idea of getting rid of Wentz I would not do that quickly, just because it's so hard to get and you so desperately need it. If you don't have a guy that can play like a top 10 quarterback, your chances of winning a championship are 0. You just, and does it happen occasionally? Sure. Joe Flacco plays out of his mind for 1 year, but he played like an elite quarterback for that stretch. Eli Manning did the same thing, played like an elite quarterback. But I'm not going to pin my hopes to a mediocre guy being able to catch lightning in a bottle. I want to go get an elite guy. And so I just think if you have the number 2 pick in the draft and you have a chance to draft a guy who's potentially a Deshaun Watson type of guy, and you don't do it, you will be looking back on that. Lots of people will be looking back on you for years to come. I mean, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes going, what they got, 10th and 14th respectively, or 11th and
10, 12,
right. Yeah. So like everyone mocks the Bears now. Like everyone looks like, oh yeah, like you didn't take the guy that you could have had. Like everyone mocks them, and rightfully so.
Yeah, the Browns too. Like they passed on them, and then, they eventually got Baker Mayfield. But yeah, they could have had either Watson or Mahomes, and definitely an upgrade. So there was one other coach firing. There was Anthony Lynn. I wasn't really sure if they're going to let him go. Like we heard rumblings about that, but then the Chargers won 4 in a row to close out the year to finish 7-9, and I was like, okay, maybe Lynn saves his job, but he didn't. He got fired. So what are your thoughts on that move?
This is one of the most surprising because they won 4 games in a row. I thought that he had saved his job, and I wonder if I would have fired the other 2 guys. Probably, yeah. I mean, Adam Gase, the easy one. Doug Marrone, probably an easy choice. This one I would imagine was a harder choice, and I also don't think that they've underachieved in his time there. Like I don't know, coaches that like when I have expectations of a team and they underachieve, then I want to fire the coach. But I feel like they've been mediocre in his time there. But I don't know that they've had like phenomenal talent in his time there either. So I don't know that they've grossly underachieved. So I feel like, I don't know, he did a decent job. And then Justin Herbert this year, oh my gosh, like played like he's an elite NFL prospect, like going forward. He's a really good quarterback. He's probably a top 10 quarterback as we speak, and will get better, which I don't know that anyone I saw on all the scouting reports, like universally, everyone got it wrong on him. I don't even think the Chargers knew what they were getting with them. I think they'd be lying if they said they thought. And what we saw at Oregon, first of all, this is an indictment on the Oregon. I saw this. I saw the statistic that Oregon led all of FBS, all of Division I football. They led passes that were behind or at the line of scrimmage. Justin Herbert's final year there, they led the nation. 25% of their passes were at or before or behind the line of scrimmage. So just all dump offs and screens. And like, you got this kid who could throw the ball down the field like that. This guy is amazing to throw the ball down the field, and you never take shots down the field. What is wrong with that? What was going on with the Oregon coaching staff? This is unbelievable to me. And so to me, this is just like, I understand why the drafting community or the scouting community got this wrong, because he was so misused clearly at Oregon. We never had a chance to see at Oregon what this kid could do. It is unreal how good he is throwing the ball down the field. He's one of the best deep ball passers we've seen in a long time. He's not great at everything, but that thing he has he's really good. So I was surprised they fired him, because like Anthony Lynn, you got to say he was a part of unlocking that. He's got to get some credit for that, right? Even if he's a defensive minded guy. So I was a little surprised by that. And I think that San Diego job, or whatever it is, whatever city they're in now, San Angeles, like it's got to be that's got to be the most attractive job, right? That's out there right now. Oh, I guess the Houston would be more attractive.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, Anthony Lynn was I guess he was kind of like the laughing stock in the NFL, like for the couple weeks in the middle of the season. Like, remember all those clock management issues that they had a few weeks in a row, and like the end of the Bills game when they ran 3 times or 2 or 3 times with like no timeouts at the end. And I was actually sweating that out because I had the Chargers, and if they would have scored a touchdown, that wouldn't have done well, and I wouldn't have finished as highly in the Super Contest. But the Chargers, like they could have won some games that they lost earlier in the year. Like was it the Raiders game stands out, the first Raiders game. They should have won that one. The Bills game they had a chance to win, and a few others. So they could have finished better than 7-9. They probably could have finished 9-7 if Anthony Lynn had better in-game coaching. But I think that he improved in that later in the year. Like the Chargers suddenly started winning close games, and like that was their bugaboo, right? Like they always like, oh, the Chargers are going to lose a close game. Like that's all that happened. Right. Late in the year, they won all their close games. So I thought that Anthony Lynn did a good job of adjusting. And I thought he did a good job, like you said, of coaching up Justin Herbert. And like, yeah, no one knew that Herbert was going to do this, and Lynn got a lot out of him. And I think it's a bad idea to switch coaches on young quarterbacks. We saw what happened with Alex Smith earlier in his career in San Francisco. It was like a different coach every single year. And you have to wonder if like they bring in someone new and that guy's not good. And then, they have to replace him. And like you at least have a decent coach in Anthony Lynn. He's ever going to be Bill Belichick or anything, or, no one is, but he's not going to be John Harbaugh. He's not going to be Sean McVay, but I think he can be a decent coach. So I wouldn't have gotten rid of him. I think it was a bad move.
Yeah. I think the continuity part is a big deal. Like the teams that change coaches quickly, we've seen over and over again the problems that they end up having. So I agree wholeheartedly. It's not good for young coaches. I mean, Alex Smith, man, that guy, I think he had like 6 offensive coordinators in 7 seasons. I mean, just like something stupid like that. Just like every year he was switching systems and terminology. You can't win that way. It's a recipe for a guaranteed inability to progress as a quarterback.
Yeah, Stan's asking Lynn, new offensive coordinator at Miami. We had Chan Gailey just retire. I mean, I think that's a good hire. There are several candidates out there, but yeah, I'd be fine with that. So we're talking about like the best coaching destinations. You mentioned the Chargers as being maybe your favorite. So you mentioned Houston. So we also have the Jets, the Jaguars, and Detroit. I don't know if I'm missing anyone, but So Atlanta, right? So what are your thoughts on that beyond the Chargers?
Houston might be my favorite just because you got Deshaun Watson, and you seem to have an owner that's hands off, that's willing to give the coach a lot of authority. Maybe that's a bad thing, but you seem to have a lot of, although maybe with their recent front office changes this week, maybe that'll change. But to me, I want the quarterback, and maybe you can make a case for Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence is the like premier destination. Like we all think Trevor Lawrence is a can't miss prospect, and he probably is. But I've seen Deshaun Watson do it in the NFL. I haven't seen Trevor Lawrence do it yet. Do I think he's probably going to do it well? Probably. I think that's a very safe bet. But the guarantee is Deshaun Watson. Like of all the opportunities, I've seen that guy do it. That guy is so good. The guy is so good. I think he's underrated. I don't think people realize how good Deshaun Watson really is. And so he's easily top 3 quarterback in the NFL right now in my mind. It's Mahomes, Wilson, Watson, or maybe Mahomes, Watson, Wilson. Like you can put those in any 3 categories, but that would be my 3.
No Rodgers.
Maybe Rodgers. I don't know. Okay, maybe Rodgers is in that mix. Those guys are all great. Like maybe like there's a 3-way tie for second place, right? Rodgers, Wilson, Watson. I just think generally everyone seems to know Wilson and Rodgers are great. Like they are kind of universally acknowledged as being great. I think when I listen to even the telecast, I still think commentators are sometimes almost like the broadcasters are almost a little bit surprised when they watch Deshaun Watson. Like, oh wow, that was a really good play. I'm like, of course it's a great play. He's freaking elite. Like, of course, like it's almost like expected that Rodgers and Wilson are going to dominate games. Where I guess like Watson he just won the passing title. So I think generally Watson is underrated. So if I'm a coach, he's the guy I think I'd want. I think second, man, that Chargers position, they got a lot of talent, like young talent on the defensive side of the ball that was really injured this year. So they had a lot of injuries, they had a lot of issues, and like if that team is healthy, that team could be a really great landing spot too.
Yeah, so the Chargers are very appealing, like you said. Like they have Herbert, they have all these weapons, they have some good pieces on defense too. The one issue with the Chargers is that they don't have any fans. Like that's the problem. It's like, okay, maybe they'll get more of a fan base with Herbert. Like maybe people in LA will start liking the Chargers a little bit more. But the Rams are LA's team. Like the Chargers are kind of like this. Yeah, this wayfaring, like wandering, like franchise. Like they don't really have a home. Like they should have stayed in San Diego, even though they didn't have that much of a fan base there. But like I thought they should have been the team to move to Vegas. Like I thought that would have made a lot more sense. But they don't have fans, so like that's my issue there with the Texans. I agree. I mean, Watson's incredible, like you said. I'd put him fourth. I'd put Mahomes, Rodgers, and then Wilson right now. and then I would put Watson. The problem with Houston is that their cap space is so horrible right now. Like it's so difficult to improve that team that they're just gonna be bad for a while, like, or mediocre. Like they're not gonna be above 7-9 or 8-8 unless they draft really well. And yet they don't have draft picks. So like they have to draft late to do well because they don't have a first or second round pick this year because of Bill O'Brien's incompetence. So that's the problem with Houston. So my answer would be Jacksonville because you have Trevor Lawrence. And I know you made a good point about Lawrence. Like, yeah, you don't know, but you kind of do know, right? Like he's the best prospect at quarterback we've seen since at least Andrew Luck. Some people say since Peyton Manning. He's just incredible. Like I would be shocked if he busts. So you're gonna have him. They have good offensive talent. Like they have DJ Chark, they have Laviska Shenault, James Robinson. The offensive line's not bad. They have some building blocks on defense. They have Josh Allen. They have Miles Jack. They have CJ Henderson. So like they have some good players. They have the first overall pick in the second round to get another good player to build around Lawrence. And plus, you'll appreciate this. They have no state tax there, so why not? And plus the warm weather. So I would definitely want to go to Jacksonville if I'm choosing any job.
And they do have one more fan than the Chargers. The Chargers have 5 fans. The Jaguars have 6.
We joke about the Jaguar fans, but they actually fill their stadiums, and like maybe it's because they built the pool. Like maybe that's why they show up. But they've actually filled the stadiums in recent years. Before this year at least.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I think people who've listened a while know I used to live in Central Florida, and there's a lot of Jag fans there. And it's really funny though. Like people will go when there's like it's just different than like growing up in Philly. People are just rabid Eagles fans, and no matter what. In like Florida, it's like I got nothing else to do. I guess we'll go to a Jags game. Like it's like no, they're good, Dad. We'll go. Like, but if they're bad, it's like whatever. Like it's like just there's not the same like animus. Like people don't live and die with the team. So it's just like a totally different culture fandom wise.
Why do you think that is? Like, I mean, you've lived in both places, so you would know better than I would. I have my theories, but why do you think that is?
But let's be honest, like living in Florida where it's nice all year round. Like I live in Minnesota now, right? Where I actually went to Florida I went to Universal Studios over Christmas break. My wife and I did. It was -4 when I left the day I left of Minnesota. It was -4 degrees. And then I landed in Florida. It was like 57. It was like this cold for the coldest it'd been in like 9 years. And we're like, this is awesome. Like the Floridians are like freezing, and it went up to like 73 the next day. But it's just like, I just think like there's just so much. You have Disney World and Universal and the beaches. You have so much to do. I think people are just like, if the team is bad, it's just like, whatever. We got something else to do. In Philly, it's like, I don't know, like in other like northern cities where it's like there's nothing else to do. Like if it's cold out, like you're not going out anywhere. You're stuck in the house. All you have to do is a sports team. So I think I see the same thing here with the Vikings fans.
That was my theory. Like if you're in one of these northern cities, like Philly, Minnesota, etc., like you're so miserable that like you need something to make you feel better. Like in the winter, it's super cold. In the summer, there's unbelievable humidity and you have stink bugs flying all over the place. Like you need to feel better about something. Because like you're like, why am I living here? Oh, the Eagles. Like maybe that's a reason. So that was always my theory. And like if you're living in Florida, it's like paradise. It's like you don't have to be miserable. You can just enjoy life. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
I don't know. Why do I live in Minnesota? Why am I? What do I? Every time I tell people that I lived in Orlando, Florida. 9 minutes from Magic Kingdom for 4.5 years. People are like, why did you move?
I've always asked that question. I've always wondered that myself. Like I live in Philly. I've lived in Philly all my life, so except for when I went to Penn State. And I was speaking at Penn State at a class I used to take at Penn State. This is like 10 years ago. And so I spoke about the website and everything. And like, so I was like, anyone have questions at the end? This one girl raises her hand and she's like, you can work anywhere, right? I'm like, yeah. She's like, so why do you live around here? Why don't you go to Florida? I'm like, that's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, Vegas seems like the natural fit for you, like just based on your industry. Like Vegas would be like the perfect fit, right?
Yeah, no state tax either. So yeah, I've kind of been talking to my wife about that. So maybe we'll make the move. We'll see. Anyway, so Super Bowl champions. So we spoke about the horrible teams. Let's get to the good team. So we can't talk about betting for reasons, as people might know, with Kenny's employment, but we can talk about like who's just going to win the Super Bowl. So who's your pick to be in the big game, and who's your pick to win it?
I mean, I feel terrible. I got to go chalk here. I think it's Chiefs Packers, but I'm not real confident. I think either one of those teams could be knocked off. The Chiefs have shown a lot of inconsistencies on defense, and they need a quarterback to get hot, and they could lose. If Lamar Jackson goes into Kansas City and is just playing out of his mind, they could beat that team. They could lose. If Ryan Tannehill, was playing great, they could beat that team. Like the Chiefs can be beaten. They're not invincible. That defense is very inconsistent, and they've had a lot of inconsistencies this year. And Patrick Mahomes actually leads the league in should have been interceptions. He has 16. I've been counting this should have been interceptions throughout the season. People who listen to the podcast, I used to do it in the offseason, but as I've been rewatching games, he leads the league. He has 16 passes that were dropped by defenders or interceptions he threw that were called back because of penalty. And so, like, Mahomes is great. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. He's on a trajectory to retire as the greatest quarterback of all time. Like, that's literally the trajectory that guy is on right now. Okay, he does things we've never seen quarterbacks do. It's amazing. And he takes a lot of risks. And he's kind of gotten lucky this year. This year, he's gotten lucky, really lucky. He only has to have one game where he throws 3 picks, and that defense is inconsistent, and they lose a game, 24-21. Like, so I'm going to pick the Chiefs and Packers, but my confidence in the Chiefs actually going. If you were going to tell me, Chiefs or the field, I think I'd take the field.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I agree that Patrick Mahomes hasn't been as good as the stats indicate because he's gotten lucky with the interceptions. However, I think there is a stipulation here, and that would be the offensive line. Like, the reason why Mahomes hasn't been as good as he should be is because the Chiefs just haven't blocked as well as normally. They normally would, because they've been missing 2 offensive linemen. Kalichi Osemele got lost for the year, and then they lost Mitchell Schwartz for a multi-week absence. Like, he's been out for a while, like actually a couple months now, ever since that first Raider game. And so if they get Schwartz back for the playoffs, and it sounds like that's going to happen, I think that could really propel the Chiefs to play a lot better than what they did in the preseason. And you kind of have to wonder if they were sort of bored in the preseason, in the regular season, rather. Like, they barely beat the Panthers. They barely beat the Raiders. And the second time they played them, they barely beat the Buccaneers and the Saints. Like it seemed like they always beat the opponent by a little bit more than they should. And like the one exception was the Jets, and they killed the Jets. But every other team, I remember Atlanta in Week 16, they almost lost to Atlanta. Right. And so they've been barely beating these teams. But I think once they get Schwartz back and once they get more focused for the playoffs, I think they're going to play a lot better. So my pick to win the Super Bowl is the Chiefs. I think they're going to get there. And I want to pick the Bills, like as Stan commented. I think the Bills have a good chance to beat the Chiefs. I think they're the only team in the AFC who can beat the Chiefs if the Chiefs' offensive line is healthy. And I think they can do it. But I'm going to go with Kansas City because I think that they're going to play better. In the NFC, I would have said the Packers easily a few weeks ago. But they lost David Bakhtiari, and they were already down Lane Taylor, so their blocking suddenly going to get worse. And we saw some struggles from them offensively against the Packers, blocking wise. So I think that could trip them up. And so given that the Bakhtiari injury happened, I think I'm going to go with the Seahawks to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So I'll go Chiefs over Seahawks. But like I said with Jacob on yesterday's show, this is the most wild playoffs we'll ever see, because anything can happen. If Patrick Mahomes gets diagnosed positively for coronavirus ahead of a playoff game, the Chiefs are done. Like, anyone could beat them. So anyone could really win the Super Bowl this year, probably outside of the Bears and the Redskins.
I'm having camera. For the people who are watching this on YouTube, my camera is just like on the fritz here. I don't know what's going on. I agree. I think that the COVID situation is like the biggest wild card of this. Is that, I mean, if I'm Andy Reid, I've got Mahomes on lockdown. I mean, if you're a coach, you've got to be so. And I think the coaches that have strong control and respect are the types of guys, the coaches that are less likely. So I think it's highly unlikely that happens to the Chiefs because of Andy Reid's coaching leadership. I think so. Like the teams that don't respect their coach, like do the Buccaneers players really respect Arians all that much? Like, do the Bears players really respect Nagy all that much? I don't think so. Maybe not. Like, I think there's a situation like are the Browns really like a disciplined team that are not going to go out partying the night before and get like? I think in general, this benefits the coaches that have a strong control of their team, the Tomlins, the Andy Reids, those kinds of guys. So you're right. I think the COVID thing is a major wild card that we have no idea how that's going to play out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. And I mentioned Seattle because they're going to get some of their offensive linemen back. Did you know that they've only played one game since week 4 with their entire offensive line intact? And that one game, they scored 40 points, albeit against the Jets, but they still scored 40 points in that game. And the Jets the following week beat the Rams. So it's not like they were crushing a team that didn't have any chance. I think Seattle's, I think their stock is pointing up as long as they get their offensive lineman back. So, MVP, last topic we'll talk about. If you talk to most people, they'll say that Aaron Rodgers is going to win MVP this year. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
My guess is that he would. That's my guess. Derrick Henry has made a case. I can't believe I just said that out of my mouth. I think it's got to be Aaron Rodgers just because the statistical, by the way, that Devontae Adams had 18 touchdown passes this year. Mason Crosby had 16 field goal attempts.
Wow.
Devontae Adams had more touchdown catches than their kicker had field goal attempts. That's an unbelievable number. Aaron Rodgers threw more touchdowns than their punter had punts this year. That kind of statistical anomaly has to go in favor. So I think you can make a case for a couple guys in the mix. I know a lot of people want Josh. I've heard Josh Allen's name thrown around a couple times. Josh Allen has played great this year. There's no doubt I want to give him that. If there's going to be a non-quarterback, it's going to be Derrick Henry in my mind. He's ran for 2,000 yards. But yeah, I think ultimately it's going to be Rodgers.
Yeah, if Derrick Henry wins MVP and he wins the Super Bowl, I'll buy us Derrick Henry jerseys and we'll wear them on the show. I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. My thinking is that if you replace a player with a mediocre starter at the position, how's the team do? If you replace, and this is my case for Rodgers over Mahomes a couple weeks ago. Now I think Rodgers is definitely in the lead. If you replace Mahomes with an average quarterback in Kansas City, he still has all that talent around him. He still has Andy Reid as his head coach. We've seen Andy Reid go to the playoffs repeatedly with Alex Smith. We saw him win games with Matt Moore last year? They won a couple of games with him. Andy Reid is a great coach, and so he can really get something out of a mediocre quarterback. And obviously a mediocre quarterback is going to be better than Matt Moore, right? If you replace Aaron Rodgers with a mediocre quarterback, what do you get? I feel like the Packers go 5-11, 6-10. All they have is Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, and that's it.
Yeah, the old baseball stat: wins above replacement.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely think Aaron Rodgers' WAR, his wins above replacement, is the highest in the NFL right now.
Yeah, for sure. And on Derrick Henry, he's been unbelievable this year. But if you put a mediocre running back there, like a Myles Gaskin or something, in Tennessee, they still probably make the playoffs or come close to it, right? So right. that would be that's my argument for Rodgers. But I don't think he needs it. I think he's going to win it pretty easily. So that is it for this week. Do you have anything else to add or anything to plug?
One other quick thing I would mention is that in our league of record, the fantasy league you and I have been in together for the last 15 seasons, I went to the championship game and was feeling pretty good because on Christmas Day, my running back named Alvin Kamara had 6 touchdowns. So I was feeling pretty good. I'm going, I just won a championship number 3 in this league, or number 4 for me in 15 years. I think I won it 3 times before. And my first 14 seasons. And so I thought, I mean, Walt, you won it last year. Now Ken's going to win it. I thought this is a good back-to-back years for the pod. I'm counting my money already. I mean, this is exciting. And then he has a couple players go off crazy, and then I've got Aaron Rodgers still. And so, I mean, it was just crazy. I ended up losing by 5 fantasy points. I lost 145 to 140. The average score in that league on a weekly basis, like if you're a good team, you're going to score about 110, 112 points is like the median for like a winning team in that league. And so to score 140 with my running back scoring 6 touchdowns, I thought for sure I was going to win. I did not. Second place.
It was that you needed Rodgers to do well in that snow game against Tennessee, and you texted me at the beginning of the game. You're like, Kamara scored 6 touchdowns, and I still need Rodgers to score 32 points more than Derrick Henry. Not just 32 points more than Derrick Henry.
Right.
And as the game was going, Rodgers was doing well. He was doing great, and then Henry was doing nothing. And it kept getting. I watched the score, even though I was not involved in the championship. I was like, I watched the score and like closer and closer. And at one point, you were like 80% to win. I was like, oh my God, Kenny's going to do this. And then the Green Bay got out to such a big lead that they didn't need to throw anymore. And that was it. So sad.
It was pretty. Yeah, it was kind of sad. Yeah, I had Aaron Rodgers and he had Derrick Henry. I needed Rodgers to outscore Henry by 32 points.
He almost got there. I was feeling for you, even though we have I think we're in a race to be the first team to win 4 championships in that league. I think so. The race is on for next year. We'll see who does it. So, all right, anything to plug?
No, that's it. I'm on the Twitters. Feel free to find me, and I'm going to try to get my should have been interceptions list out sooner this year.
Nice. You're at Fantasy Jabber. I'm at Walter Football. Go to walterfootball.com. We're going to have updated pick stuff for like Thursday and Saturday notes for the playoffs. Updated 2021 NFL mock draft today. And Charlie Campbell posted a 2021 NFL mock draft with several trades, including 2 trades in the top 5. So 1 team moving up for Justin Fields. So definitely check that out. And we'll be back, doing several more episodes in the off season. It was tough to do something during the season because we can't do DraftKings anymore. We can't do picks against the spread. So I was like, what do we do? And plus I was so busy trying to like win the super contest. So we just didn't really have anything to talk about, but we'll have tons of topics during the off season. So I'm looking forward to it.
Love it.
Yeah. All right, man. I'll see you next week.